So recently, I was seeing this meme around on Anarchy Chess and a lot of other chess sites where people would rank the pawns, and the joke was right that you couldn't discern which pawns were which. I decided that I thought that that would be an interesting idea, and so we're actually going to rank them today. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first pawn we got here is the white A pawn, which is a little bit of a weird pawn. It's a flank pawn. It's one that you use a little bit. Um, I don't think it's an S tier. But I think that it's a decent pawn, right? I don't think it's F tier. I don't think it's the best. Um, this pawn can be used a couple of times to just to in the end game you want your pawns to race down the board. You want to make a queen, right? And normally your flank pawns are the way to do that. So I think that it's a decent pawn and I'm happy with it, but it's not the best pawn in the world and doesn't really help me as much as the other pawns do in the game. So I think that probably C tier is the good for this one. I don't. Looks like the yeah, I think C tier for the A pawn. Also, I have an extra A pawn here, so I'm just gonna put it in C tier as well because I don't know how to delete things off this website. So we got two A pawns. Either way, I think that the A pawns probably go in C tier. They're flank pawns. They don't really help guard the king at all. They're not on the king side, so I don't think that they're the best. And now we got pawn number two, aka the B pawn. The B pawn sucks as a pawn. There's a reason why people sacrifice this guy at the start of the games. It's because this B pawn, if it wasn't there, I think I'd be better off without it. Because if it wasn't there, then I'd be able to get bishops out really early. Since this pawn is the Fianchetto pawn, I think that if it wasn't there, you get bishops out early. It's not even guarding the king. It's more like a hindrance than anything. I think this is probably one of the worst pawns on the list, the B pawn. And you're not going to start off a game by just playing b4 or something. That's the worst opening in the game. Why does this pawn exist? I hate it. I hate it so much. It's going in F tier because it is the worst pawn there is. All right, now we got the C pawn, and the C pawn is kind of amazing. I love my C pawn just like the next guy, and as a D4 player by heart, which is the greatest first move ever. The C pawn gets really useful in a lot of positions. For Queen's Gambit, it's really good at blowing stuff up. Sometimes you purposefully want to get doubled C pawns so then you can blow up someone's center. I love the C pawn. No, this pawn is this. I think this pawn is one of the best pawns actually, and yeah, I think this pawn is just one of the best pawns, and you can start off the game with it by taking with the English opening. I think that this one is probably one of the best or the best. Um. Oh, I really like this one. I'm going S tier. Very early, but I think it's probably just the best, greatest pawn ever in this game. The white C pawn is crazy, and we got black pawns too because it's different with black. But the white C pawn is just insane. So was the black C pawn. Oh my god, I love this. I love the C pawn. Let's get the D pawn. Now the D pawn is pretty useful as well. It's a center pawn. It's a center pawn. I think we can all agree. Um, I don't know what we're agreeing on. Besides that, it's a center pawn. I think that the D pawn is really really useful in a lot of positions because well, it's one of the first two pawns. E4 and D4 are the main two moves, and I honestly think it's a little. I think it's a good pawn. I don't think it's as good as the C pawn. But this one is pretty good. It opens up your bishop. It takes space in the center. I really like this pawn, and it gets some nice solid positional games, which I really like. And in other openings, it's not really that much of a hindrance. So I think that it's an A tier pawn. In all likelihood, it's an A tier pawn because even in Italian games, one of the ideas in the Italian is to go C3 and D4. So I think that this is one of probably one of the best pawns. Yeah, I think it's probably A tier. And now we got the bread and butter, the E pawn. The E pawn is a good pawn as well. E pawn has always been a good pawn. I don't really know what else to say about the e pawn other than that it's a half decent pawn. Like it's a I'd honestly, I kind of be happier without it. In a lot of positions, I could deal without it because it blocks like first of all it blocks your queen and your bishop. That's why pushing e4 is the most logical move because it opens up to enough pieces. But the e pawn in general, I don't think it's as good as the d pawn because it doesn't take control of the center as well. Sometimes it like blocks in your pieces. It just seems like a worse version of the d pawn, which I really like. I think this is also B tier. I don't think it's A tier, but I don't think that I don't think it's like as bad as like an A pawn or something. So I think B tier for E pawn it probably makes sense. And then we get to another really good pawn. Oh my god. Oh my god, the F pawn. Oh my god, I love the F pawn. The F pawn is one of the greatest pawns. Oh my gosh. When Oh my god! Like the F pawn is one of like the best pawns that you have in like the early positions because it defends your king, right? Like if I were to live without an F pawn, I'm one move away from getting mated, like with G4, for example. Um, I think that the F pawn is one of the best pawns too. It might be with the C pawn. I'm not entirely sure if it's with the C pawn or with the D pawn. I'm not sure if it's an A tier or an S tier pawn. It's a really good pawn. But sometimes, you know what? I'm gonna put an A tier. I'm gonna put an A tier. Yeah, I'm gonna put an A tier. And the reason is because while the C pawn is super useful at taking control of the center in like all positions, I think that the F pawn in some cases is kind of a worthless pawn and can be taken away from because like sometimes the king is safe enough so then you can play F4. But then like the F pawn becomes useful. I don't know. I might go S tier. But like what if you long castle? Then the F pawn has no use. I think we're gonna go A tier. Yeah. Yeah, that's my final answer. That's the definitive answer. A tier. Okay. Because the C pawn kind of has like no downsides. But the F pawn, you have to like kind of choose which way you want to use it. While the C pawn is like a lot more useful than that. So I think that the F pawn probably goes in A tier along with the D pawn, but not. Yeah, the C pawn is crazy. C pawn is so good. And then we got G pawn. Now the G pawn. The G pawn. It's another one. It's like the B pawn. It's like the B pawn. And I already have an answer to this. I'm putting it in D tier. I'm putting in the G pawn in D tier. And the reasoning for the G pawn being in D tier is it's slightly better than the B pawn. It's the same reasons why the B pawn sucks, but it's still kind of useful. Like the B pawn sucks because it stops your bishop from moving out immediately, and that's why it's an F tier, right? The G pawn would go in F tier for the same reason, but I don't think that the G pawn is as bad because the G pawn has a role in like defending your king a lot of the time. Like without a G pawn, then your king wouldn't really be able to like castle kingside. So I think the G pawn is a little more useful, and in like Grandmaster games, you know what? And in like Grandmaster games, you you have people like playing G4 all the time, like different like Re Lopez and like Italian positions. I think I probably it's better than F tier. I already know it's D tier. It might be C tier below A pawn. It might be C tier. I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think it's a slightly better. It's worse than the A pawn. It's worse than the A pawn. That's why I'm putting it like lower on the list. But it should be. I don't think it's a D tier pawn because it does defend your king, and you can play like G4s and stuff to start a kingside attack. I really do like the G. I honestly, I think the G pawn isn't as bad as I originally thought. No. I think the G pawn is fine. And then we get onto H pawn, the last white pawn, last whitey guy over here. This guy's pretty useful. He's a flank pawn, so he's already on the level of A pawn. He's already on the level of A pawn, probably above. Um, I think that the H pawn, right. What does the H pawn do? The H pawn is like really useful in games because you have like times where you can just go like H4, H5 randomly in games. I love doing that. But You might be better off without it though. You might be better off without it because getting your rook open on the king side really early on, and like different like d4 positions, which I play a lot. Like I think that h pawn is probably more of a liability because you want your rook opened. But then again, the h pawn is useful for defending the king, and the a pawn isn't. Um, I think I'm gonna put this guy above the a pawn, but still in C tier. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it above the a pawn, but still in C tier. The h pawn is good. Like, don't get me wrong, the h pawn is still a good pawn. Maybe B tier then, because like you can use it in like a lot of variations to just like absolutely restrict opponent's king. It's good for like lobster pincer mates. We're going B. We're going B tier. We're going B tier for the H pawn. Below E pawn, but B tier. But B tier. It's still a good pawn. It's still a pretty good pawn. Okay, okay. I think that's the definitive answer. It's a definitive answer. Also, I'm gonna put F pawn like slightly above the D pawn. Just very slightly. Okay, now we got the black pawns. Now we got the black pawns. Now the black pawns are a little different. Black pawns are a little different. Because they have different uses. Like the a pawn, the black a pawn, I think is worse than the white a pawn. But it might, I don't know. I agree with a lot of the same things that I say for the black piece as the white pieces, but there's like some slight differences. I think the a pawn is kind of like the black a pawn is kind of like the same as the white a pawn, but maybe like a little bit lower because simply because like black goes second. I think it's a little bit lower. I think I'm gonna put this here. I think I'm gonna put this here, and then like a lot of positions with black, you don't really get your a pawn moving. It's not a really useful pawn. Like I would rather. I don't even know when I would use my a pawn with black. I don't really understand because like in a lot of white positions you go a3 with white. With black, is b5 isn't really on the cards in most positions. I'm gonna put it in D tier. I'm gonna put it in D tier. It's not a good pawn, but like I would still rather have it than not. Actually, no, I might not rather have it because then your rook gets opened. It's really useful to have that open early on. I'm gonna keep it in D tier. I'm gonna keep it in D tier. I think that's probably where it belongs because it's not like a C tier pawn. It's pretty bad, but it's not like mediocre bad. No, no, no. I don't think so. Okay, now we get to black B pawn. Get to black B pawn, and same thing as the white B pawn. It probably belongs in F tier. It's a bad pawn. It's a really stupid pawn. Um, but one thing I'm gonna give it is that a lot of like black positions, like when I'm playing like a Nimso Indian or something. What are like positions of black are there? There's like E45. There's Sicilian positions. Mm, it's interesting. It's interesting. I think that the black B pawn is slightly better than the white B pawn because the black B pawn is useful at like expanding in the center a lot. And while the white B pawn has some of that, it has it to a lesser extent. So I think I'm gonna put it actually I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. I think I'm gonna put the black B pawn in C tier because you have like a decent amount of play with it. And my dog is kind of going crazy in the background, but do not pay attention to that. It is all right. Um, yeah, but is it above G pawn or is it above? I don't think it's above G pawn, but it's in C tier. Okay, okay, yeah, definitive answer. Definitive answer. Yeah, the black B pawn should be under the G pawn, but above the black A pawn. I think that's a good pawn. I think the black B pawn is pretty decent, pretty mediocre. It's good. It's a decent thing to use. And now we go to the black C pawn, the best pawn ever made, ever, ever, ever. I love the black C pawn with all my heart because it's useful in literally all lines. Against E4 positions, you have the Sicilian defense. Against D4 positions, First of all, you have the Benoni, but second of all, the black sea pawn is just useful in general. If you want like a c6 to blunt a Catalan bishop, oh man, oh man, that seems really really good. Also, can be used in a Caro Kann. Oh man, I haven't played the Caro Kann in a while. Probably gonna play that again soon. Oh, but I think it might be even better than the white sea pawn because the black sea pawn is one of the only ways to make counterplay in a lot of positions. I think I'm gonna put it above the white sea pawn. It's an yeah yeah, it's gonna go above the white sea pawn. Oh man, the black sea pawn is crazy. It's such a useful pawn. It's an all rounder of a pawn. It's what you want. It's what you want. It's your uncle coming back from a long day at work during Christmas time, and he has like I don't know. He lets you use his gun or something like something awesome like that. Because you live in America. In if you live in Europe, then I don't know. He lets you drive his car, and you're like underage or something. I don't know. But I don't know what Europeans want. Whatever. But yeah, the Black Sea Pawn is one of the best pawns out there. That's my point. Black Sea Pawn is great. It's that warm feeling of cocoa on a nice cold day that I haven't had here since it's like 70 degrees outside and it's like mid December. But whatever. Black Sea Pawn is great. Now the Black D Pawn. Black D Pawn is also decent. Now the Black D Pawn, it's a good pawn. It's a good pawn. The Black D Pawn is a good pawn. It's useful in a lot of ways. I don't know if I'm gonna put it A tier or B tier in all honesty, because it's a good pawn, but it's not like the cream of the crop. It's definitely not a C pawn territory, but it's not as good as the white D pawn, I don't think either, because it's kind of more of like a desperation attempt. It's not really like a counterplay pawn like the C pawn. It's more like if I don't play with this, I'm going to be in a bad position. It's kind of like that kind of pawn against like e4 e5. The D pawn isn't really that useful. Again, in like a Sicilian position, the D pawn is more of a hindrance than anything, but it can be useful. I think I'm gonna put it top of B tier. Yeah, it's not A tier for me, but it's a decent pawn. It's definitely a decent pawn, but it's not A tier, and I don't think it's like mediocre in C tier, so I think that's probably where it should go. And we have a couple more pawns. Oh my god, this video this is 18 minutes long. Okay. I did I didn't realize how long I'd be on this. But either way, we got the E pawn. We got the black E pawn. We got the black E pawn. Now the black E pawn sucks. The black E pawn is awful. You ever play a French defense? You know why you have a bad French bishop? It's because of the black E pawn. It's because of the black E pawn. The black E pawn is only about stability. It's only about stability. Actually no, sometimes you push it. Sometimes you push it forward. That's tricky. That's tricky. It can be useful. It could actually be like a really useful pawn. The black E pawn is a good pawn, but I've changed my mind. I started out thinking the black E pawn was bad, but actually I don't think it's that bad. I think it's not as bad as a lot of people think. Like if I'm playing with black, a lot of the time the E pawn is the counterplay that I want, but a lot of the time just gets in the way. I think it goes in B tier, but I don't know where in B tier. I don't think it goes above the D pawn, but the white H pawn, it might go above. The white H pawn is pretty useful, but I don't think it outshines the black E pawn. And the white E pawn is also pretty good, but is it better than the black E pawn? This is such a stupid. This is such a stupid debate. I think that the black E pawn is better than the white E pawn. I think it is. I think it is. I think this is what we have so far. This is what we have so far. So a lot of the time, the black pawns are better than the white pawns. But some, yeah, a lot of the time they're better. Like the B pawn is very, very interesting. But I think that all right. Let's get to another really good pawn. The F pawn is always a really good pawn because it's like incredibly useful for defending your king. It's the only pawn that's useful for defending your king. Like everything else, as long as you have an F pawn, then you're doing okay because it blocks everything. Like if I didn't have an F pawn, I would hate myself and I would probably quit chess. Um, F pawn is such a good pawn, and with black being the side that's normally getting attacked, I don't think it's as good as the white F pawn, in all honesty. Because the white F pawn has some like use. Because sometimes you play F4, and sometimes you just keep it back to defend. So I think that the white F pawn is slightly better. But black F pawn has the same thing. Because sometimes you have F5, and some tricky, tricky, tricky. I think they're probably basically exactly the same because they're more useful in middle games to push, and you want to keep your position like solid too in like all stages of the game. I think that the F pawns are probably on the same level. They're both really really good. I guess I'll put the black one slightly lower than the white one, just because of like the bird opening. Like some people play that, some people like the bird opening. You never know. I played someone who played the bird opening like today, so some people are crazy about it. I don't know. I think that that's probably where that goes. And now we got two more pawns. We got two more pawns. Of course, we got the doubled A pawns, but those are the same. You know what? This pawn sucks. I misclicked you into existence. I don't know how to delete. You're going F tier. Um, but the black G pawn is also an interesting pawn. The black G pawn. I'm trying to think of the points that I use for the white G pawn. The white G pawn, it defends the king, and you can play G4 sometimes, but it's also one of the pawns that stop you from developing your bishop. So I think that the black G pawn, I think that the black G pawn is a lot worse than the white G pawn, simply because there's no G4 ideas with black. Like you're not gonna go like G5 H5 in a game, or you're gonna do that very rarely. It's a lot more common with the white position to push your G pawns. Well, simply because like white is better in chess. It's just a better like you have like a point 0.3 advantage when you start with white. But the black G pawn it's just worse than the white G pawn in general. I think it's a D tier pawn simply because you don't have like G4 ideas. Like a lot of white positions you can play G4 G5 or something, like just attack. But with black positions, that's not really on the cards. Like you're not gonna do that. You're mostly gonna play in like the center and the queen side. You're not gonna king side play with black is a little bit tricky. Like I feel like I'm just kind of demolishing my position if I play like that. But it does defend the king, so I'm gonna put it like a better than the white B pawn, of course. Yeah, I think G pawn probably under the black A pawn, but better than the white B pawn. Yeah, okay, okay. And we got the last pawn. We're already done. We got the black H pawn, the last pawn of the world. The black H pawn. The black H pawn is tricky. Black H pawn is genuinely tricky. I need to think about this a little bit because the black H pawn, what does it even do? I think it's just a sucky pawn. I think it kind of sucks. I'm pretty sure it's just a bad pawn. But you know what? You know what? Sometimes you go like H4, H5 in the middle of a game. And if I didn't have my black H pawn, I'd probably just get mated. Hmm. The black H pawn is good. It's not like useful, but it's like really good for defense. It's like an F pawn in that way, but it's a lot worse than an F pawn because the F pawn you can sometimes push. The black H pawn, I don't think it's very useful in that regard. I think it's going C tier. I think black H pawn is probably going C tier. White H pawn is like light years better than the black H pawn. Bottom of C tier, or where is it going in C tier? Is it better than the G pawn? No. Is it better than the B pawn? Probably not. Maybe it goes D tier. Maybe it goes top of D tier. Actually, I think it goes top of D tier. I don't think that it's actually a C tier pawn. But you know what? It's useful for defense. I'm gonna go bottom of C tier. Bottom of C tier for the H pawn. And I think that by the way, I think that the white A pawn, like it's not as good as I'm hyping it up to be. I think it's probably a little bit under the G pawn, maybe under the B pawn as well. Yeah, maybe under the B pawn, but not under the H pawn. Yeah, I think that's probably yeah. I think that's the definitive answer. So there we go. There we go. There's your pawns ranked. If you want like more pawns here. We got two A pawns. I don't know. Sometimes there's like other stuff in chess that we can rank, but this is the best one. This is definitive proof. Love your C pawns and they will love you back. I love my C pawn. It's wonderful. Best pawn. Um, yeah, that's it. So I hope you enjoyed. It's a waste of 25 minutes if you watch this far, but like, okay, thank you. Yeah, bye.